I don't remember the exact moment I passed out, just flashes, like someone cutting together footage of a film that should have been peaceful, but wasn't. My front door slamming, pain in my abdomen like firecrackers, my phone buzzing on the floor, then darkness. When I woke up, there were hospital lights, clean sheets, machines humming beside me. My throat hurt from the tube they'd pulled out, and everything around me smelled like antiseptic and sadness. They told me it was an appendix rupture. The surgeon said I was lucky I came in when I did. Another few hours, and I might not have made it. I guess I should have felt grateful. But gratitude is a strange thing when you wake up, and the only person sitting next to your bed is the nurse, doing her rounds. Not my sister, not my mother. No messages on my phone. Just silence. I stayed in the hospital for 5 days. 5 days of trying not to wonder why no one visited, of watching the door every time footsteps echoed down the hallway. On day 3, I stopped asking. On day 5, I was discharged with pain meds and a warning to take it slow. They wheeled me outside and I called a cab. My apartment was supposed to be where I healed. I'd worked 2 jobs to get that place. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I'd paid the deposit myself. Furnished it room by room, second-hand things with personality, framed photos of moments that felt solid. But when the cab pulled up, something felt wrong. There was a silver Honda in the driveway, one I didn't recognize. And when I got to the door, my key didn't fit. At first I thought I'd misremembered which key it was. I tried all 3 on my ring. Nothing. Then the door opened. And there she was. Cassidy, my cousin. Wearing my robe. With her hair wrapped in a towel from my bathroom, she blinked at me like I was the one out of place. "Hey," she said. "You're back already?" I didn't understand. "Why are you in my apartment?" Cassidy pulled the towel tighter, glancing behind her. "Aunt Liz said you'd be in recovery for at least 2 weeks. She said it'd be fine for me to stay here a bit since I needed a place." My throat dried out like sand. "You mean Mom? My mother said you could stay in my apartment?" She gave a little shrug and moved aside. "Look, I didn't think it was a big deal. Your mom had a spare key. She said you'd be fine with it, especially since you weren't using it." I walked inside. The coffee table had been moved, my throw pillows were gone. My kitchen, my tiny sanctuary, was crowded with takeout boxes, lipstick-stained glasses, and a curling iron left plugged in near the microwave. I opened my bedroom door. My bed was unmade. New perfume hung in the air. Cassidy's suitcase was cracked open on the floor. My framed photo of me and my best friend, gone from the nightstand, replaced with one of her and a guy I didn't recognize. It was like I'd walked into a version of my life where I didn't exist. Later, when I called my mom, she sounded annoyed. "Oh, don't be dramatic," she sighed. "Cassidy needed help. Her lease ended early, and she's family. You weren't even home." "I was in surgery," I said coldly. "You're always so sensitive." That's what she said. Like I was the one being unreasonable. Like waking up to find someone living. In your home, wearing your things, rearranging your life, wasn't reason enough to be upset. They didn't ask. They didn't tell me. They just decided. For me. Because they've always done that. Because I've always been the one who didn't make a scene. But something inside me clicked that day. It was small. Just a shift. A crack in the wall I'd built around myself. And Cracks let the light in. Cassidy didn't leave that night. She didn't even offer. She just went back to my room, shut the door halfway, and turned up her little Bluetooth speaker. Indie pop bass lines thudded through the wall as I sat on the couch that now smelled like someone else's perfume. The kitchen trash was full. My tea mugs had lipstick I didn't wear, and the framed photo of my grandmother that used to sit beside the kettle, gone. My stitches tugged as I stood. The physical pain was sharp, but it was nothing compared to the deeper, quieter hurt blooming in my chest. This wasn't just inconvenience. It was displacement, and the people who were supposed to protect me, my family, had handed over the keys to my life without a second thought. The next morning, I limped to the fridge and found a handwritten note stuck to it. "Hey, just borrowed some almond milk and eggs. Hope that's cool. I'll replace it later." She didn't. What she did replace was the bathroom curtain, my blue one, with a white floral print I picked out from a thrift market, now gone. In its place was a gaudy pink one covered in glittery lips, like she thought she was upgrading something. She also left her curling iron in the sink, again, and used my fancy shampoo, the one I saved for weekends, like it was hand soap. I called my mom again. "Cassidy needs a stable place, sweetheart," she said, voice clipped like I was being selfish. "She's family. You have space." "I'm not a shelter," I said, trying not to let the heat creep into my voice. "And she's not even paying rent. She just moved in. Give her time. You're home now. She'll adjust." "Adjust?" I said. "To living in my space?" There was a long pause. Then, "It's only temporary. Don't be difficult. Temporary." Like I was being a brat. Like this wasn't theft in slow motion. That night, I found my grandmother's photo behind the TV, turned face down. I stood there, holding it in my shaking hands, trying to understand what the hell was going on. Cassidy didn't just borrow space. She was erasing me from it. She'd even changed the Wi-Fi name, from Ellie's Nest to Cass Corner 22. Ellie. That's me, by the way. Short for Elena, quiet girl, chronic overthinker. Known for keeping the peace. But peace doesn't mean passivity. And I was starting to wake up. The turning point came when I got home from a follow-up appointment, and the lock on the front door clicked as I tried to open it. I knocked. Once. Twice. The deadbolt stayed firm. Cassidy opened it 5 seconds later, eyes wide, smirking. "Oh, sorry, I thought you had your key." "I do have my key," I said. "It's just that you changed the damn lock." She gave me a look, half apology, half bratty shrug. "It was sticking. I asked your mom. She said it was fine." My hands were trembling as I walked in. She had no authority, but somehow, in this warped version of reality, my own mother had given her the green light. I started to document things, photos of rooms, of missing items, of texts where Cassidy forgot to replace groceries, of electric bills showing triple usage, of Mom's dismissive replies. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it, but something told me I'd need the receipts. That night, I slept on the couch, again. And Cassidy? She FaceTimed someone in my bedroom, giggling loud enough for me to hear every word. Yeah, I know, she's totally anal about her stuff, but she's so uptight. She should be grateful I kept the place from feeling stale. Stale. That was my home. That was the life I'd built, room by room, paycheck by paycheck. So I opened my laptop and I began planning, not a confrontation, not a fight. No, I was done screaming into voids. This would be smart, quiet, undeniable. I would make them all watch me take it back and piece by piece. Cassidy thought I was quiet because I was scared. She mistook silence for surrender, the same way my mother always had. But I wasn't shrinking. I was storing. Every time Cassidy disrespected the space, I logged it. Every time she used my card to order sushi without asking, I screenshotted the receipt. Every time my mother called to scold me for making Cassidy feel uncomfortable, I saved the voicemail, and I began researching tenant rights, property access, leaseholder protections. Because while Cassidy played house, she forgot one small, crucial detail. My name was on everything. I'd paid the deposit. I'd signed the lease. I was the only legal occupant listed with the building manager. And Cassidy? She was a squatter. A squatter with good lip gloss and bad boundaries. A week passed before she noticed I'd stopped reacting. She tried picking at me again, complaining that I left the bathroom too plain, asking if I'd ever considered moving into a shared housing setup to save money. I smiled, said nothing. On Tuesday, I texted the landlord. Hi, Marcia. Just a heads up. My cousin Cassidy has been staying without permission while I was in the hospital. She is not on the lease, and I have not approved her occupancy. I'm working on resolving it, but wanted it in writing with you. Marcia replied fast. That's absolutely not okay. We'll talk tomorrow. She needs to go. You're protected under your lease. I took a breath. Not a big one, just enough to let it start to settle. By Thursday, I'd quietly changed my online passwords. Banking, Netflix, Spotify. She'd been freeloading on everything. I rerouted my mail to a nearby P.O. box, bought a tiny lockbox for my documents. Then, I left a little trap. I set my phone on the kitchen counter, recording. 10 minutes later, Cassidy walked in and grabbed a delivery order from the doorstep. Said to someone on the phone, I used her account again. She doesn't even notice. I clipped that audio, labeled it Evidence 04. Friday afternoon, I took a walk, just around the block, slow, measured, and when I came back, Cassidy had friends over, laughing, drinking, wearing shoes inside, on my white rug. I stood there in the doorway for a long second before she saw me. Oh, hey, she chirped. Hope you don't mind. Figured you'd be out late again. I stared at the group of strangers on my couch. She kept talking. We're just doing a little pregame. You don't have to join or anything unless you want to help clean tomorrow. I didn't answer. I walked to the bookshelf. I pulled out the little fake book safe I kept tucked between paperbacks, one of the only things she hadn't touched. Inside was my lease, my medical forms, and a spare USB loaded with every photo, text, audio file, and receipt I'd gathered since the day I came home. I went to my room, closed the door, and slept with the calm of someone sharpening knives in the dark. Cassidy wasn't a monster. She was just someone who'd never been told. No. My mother had coddled her since we were kids. Let her take my toys, my seat at the dinner table, my spot in the car, even the last slice of pie on holidays. But this wasn't a toy. This was my home. And this time, I wasn't letting go. The next day, Cassidy got served with a notice from the building office. Marcia had emailed me a copy, per protocol. It stated plainly, unauthorized occupancy is a breach of lease agreement. Non-leaseholders must vacate within 7 days or face legal removal. I printed it out, taped it to the fridge. She saw it when she came back from yoga, earbuds in, sipping from one of my glass tumblers. I didn't say a word. She stared at the paper. Her smile faltered. Is this real? I nodded. It's from the landlord. I told her everything. She laughed. The kind of laugh people use when they're pretending it's all a joke. You wouldn't do that to me. We're family. I looked her in the eye. You did it to me. That was the first time Cassidy didn't have a comeback. Just the sound of her setting the glass down too hard, her jaw tight as she walked back to my room. But the shift had started, and this wasn't over. Not yet. By Monday morning, Cassidy had gone from smug to sulking. She stopped playing music, stopped leaving messes, started acting like a ghost in the hallway. Quiet, bitter, but still there. 7 days. That's what the notice said. 7 days to vacate. But she hadn't packed a thing, just kept using my shampoo, my laundry detergent, even borrowed one of my sweaters without asking. She left it bunched at the end of the couch, still warm when I picked it up. I folded it neatly, set it in my closet, and locked the door. Then, just to twist the knife a little slower, I changed the Wi-Fi password back. Ellie Nest restored. I didn't tell my mother right away. I knew she'd find out soon enough, and she did. On the 4th night, I got a knock at the door just after 9 p.m. Not a text, not a call, just a knock, like she still owned the place, like her voice was allowed to echo in my hallway uninvited. I opened it, and there she was, Mom, in her usual pressed blouse and clipped smile, standing beside Cassidy like some kind of personal legal counsel. Elena, she began, I think this has gone far enough. I didn't answer. I just leaned on the doorframe and waited. She's family, my mother said, stepping forward like she might push past me. She's going through a hard time, and you're being cold. This isn't like you. I let out a breath. This is like me now, I said. It's just the version of me you don't get to control anymore. Cassidy crossed her arms. Seriously, Ellie? You're kicking me out over what? Some stupid bills and a lock change? I tilted my head. And unauthorized occupancy, and theft, and using my accounts to buy things behind my back. Should I keep going? You're acting like I'm a criminal. You're acting like this isn't my home. My mom's voice sharpened. Elena, we opened this space up when you were vulnerable. When you needed help. Cassidy was keeping it warm for you, and now you're being ungrateful. I blinked. Once. Slowly. You didn't open it up. You gave it away, without asking. And Cassidy wasn't helping. She was nesting. Her eyes flared. I can't believe you'd embarrass me like this. That's your problem, Mom. You care more about being embarrassed than being fair. The silence after that was heavy. I could feel Cassidy bristling beside her, waiting for Mom to step in, to win it like she always did. But I didn't budge. Just stepped back inside and closed the door. Didn't slam it. Didn't yell. Just clicked the lock behind me. The next day, Cassidy retaliated. She left the kitchen trashed. Bowls in the sink, milk left out to sour, sauce spilled on the counter. Like a child throwing a tantrum with food, she even scratched one of my pans with a fork. I didn't say a word. I took pictures. Then I cleaned it up, quietly, with gloves on, teeth clenched, and tossed everything with her name on it into a cardboard box. Not out of rage, but out of control. Out of readiness. Thursday, I came home from work, just half days now, easing back in, and noticed the bedroom door was cracked open. Cassidy wasn't home, but the light was on. Her suitcase had been dragged halfway shut, and inside, my jewelry box was open, 2 rings missing. I texted her, "I'm missing 2 rings. Please return them before I file a theft report." She left me on read, so I added it to the folder labeled eviction evidence, printed every file, emailed the building manager, made sure it was all time-stamped. Day 6. Cassidy finally broke. She came home late, past midnight, reeking of wine, banged the door, threw her shoes against the wall. "You think you're better." "Than me?" she yelled from the hallway. "You think this place makes you important?" I didn't respond. I was in my room, lights off, headphones in, recording everything from my phone propped by the door. Because Cassidy wasn't just leaving anymore. She was about to get removed. The final straw came the next morning. I walked into the kitchen. My grandmother's teacups, glass, delicate, hand-painted, were shattered in the trash. All 3. Cassidy didn't even say anything. Just sat on the couch, scrolling on her phone like she hadn't just destroyed the last physical connection I had to the one woman who made me feel seen. I looked at the shards. Then, I looked at her and smiled. Cassidy didn't apologize for the teacups. Of course she didn't. She just left the pieces like they were nothing. Like they weren't my grandmother's, like they weren't mine. But I didn't cry. I didn't even touch the shards. I took a picture, closed the trash lid, and walked away. I wasn't grieving anymore. I was documenting. And now, I was done waiting. I filed the complaint first thing the next morning, printed out the images, the screenshots, the videos, and the building's notice. Took it directly to the leasing office and sat across from Marcia, the property manager, like I had every right to be there, because I did. "I've given her every chance to leave quietly," I said. "She's ignored the warning, she's damaged property, and she's not on the lease." Marcia didn't even blink. "You've done everything right. We'll handle it from here. She'll be served." "Will I have to be there?" "No," she said. "But you can be, if you want to watch her walk out." I smiled. Not out of cruelty, out of closure. Back at the apartment, Cassidy was in the kitchen with her laptop, sipping the last of my oat milk and applying mascara like she had no idea the walls were closing in. "I need the living room for a Zoom call," she said flatly, not even looking up. I walked to the fridge, took out a bottle of water. She thought I was ignoring her. I said, "You'll need a new location," I said, unscrewing the cap. "You won't be living here by Friday." She blinked. "Excuse me?" "Marcia filed the formal removal this morning. You're being evicted," she scoffed. "You're bluffing." I held up a copy of the stamped notice, set it on the counter. She stared at it like it was written in another language. "I've got audio of you admitting to using my accounts. I've got photos of damage, screenshots, messages, a log of every item you've taken. I'll tell your mom. Please do." That night, my mother called, predictably. "Elena, this is insane," she snapped. "You're throwing family out like a stranger." "She is a stranger," I said calmly. "And you enabled her to squat in my home while I was in the hospital. She needed a place. I needed support. And you chose her." Silence. For once, no defense, no justification. Just breath. "Elena," she finally whispered, softer now. "You're not being fair." "No," I'm being done. Friday. Morning, 9:47 a.m. There was a knock on the door. 2 uniformed building staff members. 1 clipboard. Cassidy stood in the hallway, arms crossed, fake tears already forming. I was going to leave anyway, she muttered, but she wasn't ready. Not really. She hadn't packed more than 1 duffel bag. The rest, makeup, clothes, electronics, her stupid ring light, sat scattered across the room like she thought she had more time. They gave her 10 minutes. 10 minutes to collect what was hers. 10 minutes to realize she'd lost. She grabbed her things in a silent tantrum, stuffing them into the bag with jerky, panicked movements. My mom called once during it. Cassidy ignored it. Her hands were shaking. I didn't speak. I just stood there, back straight, document in hand. And when she looked at me one last time, eyes desperate, mouth quivering like she wanted to spit something cruel, I beat her to it. You broke the only things that mattered to me. And you thought I wouldn't break back. She was gone by 10:05. The door shut with a heavy click. I didn't cry. I vacuumed. I opened the windows. I played music. My music. Not Cassidy's tinny garbage, but my playlist, the one I hadn't touched since the hospital. Then I pulled out the glue, and I pieced together the broken teacups, not to restore them, not even to use them again, but to remember what I'd survived. 3. Days passed after Cassidy was removed. 3 days of silence. No calls. No texts. Not even a passive-aggressive voicemail from my mother. And yet, I felt like I was living with a ghost. Not Cassidy anymore, but the residue of her. A smudge on the mirror, a faint perfume on the closet door, glitter in the bathroom, grout that refused to leave. I wiped it all away, scrubbed every corner, burned sage, opened windows, and played the songs that used to make me feel alive. By Sunday, I finally started sleeping again, not because everything was fixed, but because I'd finally reclaimed the right to rest. That morning, I opened my inbox and saw an email titled, "Let's talk. Mom." It was short. "I want to come by and clear the air. Please don't shut me out." Mom, I stared at it for 10 minutes before replying. "Come at 4. Alone." She showed up exactly at 4:03 p.m., wearing the same careful makeup and perfume she used for church services and family dinners. A performance of grace. But her eyes gave her away. She looked tired, like something had finally cracked beneath the surface. I didn't invite her in right away. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "This isn't a guilt trip," she said quickly. "I'm not here to argue." "Then why are you here?" She hesitated. "I want to understand what I missed." I let her in. Barely. She sat on the edge of the couch, like it might bite her. I stood by the kitchen counter, arms still folded. "You let her in," I said softly, but with steel in my voice. "You let her live in my home, without asking, while I was unconscious." She said she needed help. I needed help. I cut in. "And you weren't there." Her mouth opened, but she couldn't say anything. Just looked at me like I was someone she was seeing for the first time. "You have always chosen her," I said, "since we were kids. You let her take things from me and then told me to be the bigger person. You've made excuses for her while calling me dramatic. You left me alone in a hospital bed, and you let her change the locks on my home. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't know it would go that far. You didn't care enough to check. She stood then, maybe out of instinct. Elena, I'm not your backup plan, I said. I'm not the one you get to circle back to after the golden child burns the house down. Her shoulders sagged. I didn't mean to hurt you, but you did. She looked around my apartment like she was hoping to find a version of me that still needed her, one that would forgive her for the 100th time. But I was done. I wasn't bitter. I was awake. You can come to Thanksgiving, I said flatly. But you don't get to decide how close we are anymore. She nodded slowly. I understand. And don't bring her. Not here. Not ever again. Her face tightened, but she nodded again. Understood. I opened the door. She walked out. Didn't hug me. Didn't ask for one. Just turned and disappeared down the hallway. The next morning, I opened the last box Cassidy had left behind. She'd forgotten it under the bed. It was filled with cheap jewelry, half-used makeup, and a crumpled envelope addressed to her. I paused. Inside was a letter from her ex, someone who had clearly left her, someone who wrote in tired, bitter sentences. I can't keep doing this, Cassidy. You suck the oxygen out of everything. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. But I can't be your mirror anymore. For a moment, I just sat with that. Cassidy hadn't just taken from me. She'd been taking from everyone, and maybe that's all she knew how to do. I didn't text her. I didn't send the box. I dropped it at the donation bin on my way to get groceries. Then I bought fresh sunflowers, a new tea set, and a bright yellow rug to replace the one she'd stained. My apartment smelled like lemon and mint and peace, and for the first time in months, it felt like mine again. It started with the rug, that stupid yellow rug. It wasn't expensive, just something I found online late one night after scrubbing Cassidy's glitter-stained footprint out of the old one. But when I laid it down, the room felt different. It felt like it had forgiven me. I think sometimes a place can hold your pain, soak it in like smoke, and unless you change it, truly change it, it keeps replaying your worst memories like a broken film reel. So I changed it. I got rid of the throw pillows Cassidy brought in, the ones with sequins and rhinestones that scratched your arms when you leaned wrong, traded them for soft velvet and navy and rust, bought new towels, replaced the shower curtain, again. I even painted the front door, a soft forest green, something earthy, something no one would call stale. I didn't post any of it online. No new beginnings captions, no passive-aggressive subtweets. This wasn't for show. This was for me. I started walking again, early mornings before the city woke up. Headphones in, hood up, breathing in rhythm with my steps. The doctor had said movement would help with the recovery, but I think he meant physically. What it did for me emotionally was something else entirely. It reminded me I had a body, and it was mine. No one was borrowing it, taking from it, using it without asking. It belonged to me, just like my home did now. The building staff started to smile more when they saw me. They remembered my name, asked how I was doing, how the recovery was going. There was no trace of Cassidy anymore. She didn't even come back for the rest of her things. Maybe she knew better. Maybe she finally learned what a locked door feels like. 1. Morning, Marcia from the leasing office caught me on the elevator. "I meant to tell you," she said. "You handled everything with real grace. You could have let it get messy, but you stayed sharp." I shrugged, a little embarrassed. Didn't feel graceful at the time. "Well," she said, smiling. "Revenge doesn't have to be loud to work." That stuck with me. Revenge doesn't have to be loud. It can be the quiet power of owning your space, of saying no, of painting your front door green and meaning it. Around week 3, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, just wanted to say I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. Hope things are better now." I stared at it for a long time. It was Cassidy. No signature, no explanation. Just a flicker of acknowledgement sent through a cracked screen. I didn't reply. I wasn't angry. But I wasn't interested in reopening a door I'd finally locked for good. Instead, I sent a message to someone I hadn't talked to in months. Nora, my best friend from college, the one whose photo Cassidy had removed from the bedroom. "I miss you. You were right. About all of it." Nora replied in 5 minutes flat. "Took you long enough. Let's get brunch. And this time, you're not paying for everyone else like last time." I laughed. Actually laughed. And for the first time in a long while, the sound felt real. That Saturday, I hosted my first dinner since the hospital. Just 4 people. Nora, 2 coworkers, 1 new neighbor who'd helped me carry groceries once. I cooked everything myself, nothing fancy. Pasta, roasted vegetables, brownies from a box. They all brought wine and overwatered compliments, and when I told them they could take off their shoes and make themselves at home, I meant it. Because this time, home wasn't something I was defending. It was something I'd built back stronger. 2 months passed. No more glitter on the floor. No more passive-aggressive fridge notes. No strange perfume clinging to the pillows at night. Just peace. Quiet, ordinary, earned peace. And I didn't take a single second of it for granted. My mother called once more. Not to beg. Not to justify. To ask if we could meet. It had been weeks since I'd seen her. Since the day she stood in my hallway and heard words I'd never said before. Words that had been building since childhood. I agreed. But this time, I chose the location. Not her house. Not my apartment. A neutral place. A quiet cafe halfway between both our lives. She arrived on time. Sat across from me, hands folded, hair pulled back the same way she used to wear it at my school recitals. "I've been thinking," she said, "about everything you said to me. And everything I didn't say to you." I waited. She didn't cry. That wasn't her style. But I saw the edges of something vulnerable cracking through. I let her take up space that wasn't hers, she admitted, because I was used to her being the one who needed. "And I wasn't?" I said, gently but directly. She flinched. "You never showed it." "I did. You just never listened unless I broke." She nodded. "I see that now," she said. "Too late, maybe, but I do." We talked for nearly an hour. Not to repair everything. Some things were too scarred for a full reset, but to name them, and that was enough. Not forgiveness. Not blame. Just truth. When we stood up to leave, she paused before hugging me. "You've grown a spine," she said, almost smiling. I met her eyes. "No." I've always had one. You just never noticed it until it faced you. That night I went home and opened the last drawer Cassidy had touched. Inside was the glue-hardened remains of my grandmother's teacup. I'd pieced it together weeks ago, every shard like a tiny act of defiance. It still didn't look right. Cracks everywhere, missing a corner of the handle. But I didn't want it to be perfect. I wanted it to remember. I set it on the kitchen shelf, next to a framed photo of me and Nora at brunch, both laughing with red-stained lips. Below it, the new Wi-Fi password taped to the wall. Not Your Guess 2024. I changed the locks again that weekend. Not because I was scared. Because I could. Because I no longer left doors open for people who only knew how to take. And on the first morning of spring, I stood at my window with a cup of tea, jasmine, no sugar, and watched the sunrise over a city that had finally stopped pressing in on me. I had my own walls now, my own name on the lease, my own keys, and this time they weren't for sharing.